If you are unfortunate enough to be in the position of using Windows as your daily driver and have an opinion about it, you probably have a few things you dislike about the way it handles certain things, like the way it forces you to update, or how Windows Defender goes full Thanos every time you program a Hello World program and create an executable of it. Personally, one thing I have previously envied being on Linux and not on Windows is the seamless ability to program, how it is so ingrained within Linux, with many distros coming with something like the GCC compiler, VI, Nano or Vim straight out of the box. Now, whilst installing an IDE on Windows, Notepad doesn't count, something like VS Code or Notepad++ is something that's not too complex, even for someone who may not utilize a computer every day to understand and do. It is still something that you have to go out of your way to do. Whilst this video could take a turn down the road of ranting about the inadequacies of the Windows operating system when it comes to programming, software development, and, well, basically everything in between, I thought it would be a better use of our time to discuss not only how to program on Windows, but how to do so like a Chad. First of all, we must cleanse our palates of the stench of Microsoft as best we can, and to cleanse ourselves as so whilst being forced to utilise Windows can seem a little counterintuitive. In reality, it's quite a simple process. We are going to be disregarding Visual Studio and VS Code. They're bloated and coated with Microsoft telemetry. Well, sort of like polishing the bonnet of a car after a head-on collision, or hood if you must insist. Worrying about telemetry whilst using Windows is sort of a losing battle, but as I've said, we can try our best. Whilst more open source versions of these pieces of software exist, such as Code OSS for VS Code, we will be going with one of two choices for IDE in this specific scenario. The first choice out of these two is Notepad++. Now, stick with me here. This is the more GUI and user-friendly of the two options, as it is quick and easy to install with a simple exe from the website. Most people are familiar, but it is what it says on the tin. It's Notepad, but better, and has a plethora of features such as syntax highlighting and an almost infinite amount of customizability with plugins being available. The second option for the best IDE is going to be every Linux elitist's favourite, NeoVim. Now, as I'm sure most of you are aware, NeoVim is the modern edition of Vim, which has become very iconic within the open source space, especially considering that it is quite an old piece of software. Whilst installing NeoVim can be as easy as downloading it from the website, we are better than that. We are going to be installing NeoVim from the terminal with the help of Scoop, which is a package manager available for Windows. This enables us to install NeoVim with as few dependencies as possible, with the added benefit of the installation automatically editing the Windows path variables for us, enabling us to execute NeoVim from the terminal no matter which directory we may be in. If you don't have Scoop installed, don't worry, I have a previous video showcasing how you can do that. Link in the description and on screen. It takes like 2 minutes, no joke. Now we are entering true alpha mega sigma levels of based programming on Windows with NeoVim. Well, as based as it can be on Windows anyway. You are free to edit it as much or as little as possible, all to your heart's content. But with our IDE now installed, we need a C and C++ compiler. In the past, I have found getting a functional compiler to be a pain in the arse for some reason. It need not be so difficult, for we have the power of Scoop, the Scoop package manager. So, using this again, we can actually download the GCC compiler straight from the terminal, again with minimal dependencies or other things that may cause us to have a brain aneurysm in the future. And if you've used Linux before, you will be familiar with GCC, as it is the C compiler, C and C++ compiler that often comes shipped with the distro. Now, for one reason or another, GCC is not present on Windows by default. In fact, there is no C or C++ compiler present by default. There are other ways you can download other compilers, such as VS Code and using the C++ extension. But like I say, we are Chads. We are not going down that avenue. And with that, our based C++ programming can begin. I personally prefer using Notepad++, as it is what I'm able to use whilst I'm inside my computer science lab, so I've really just gotten used to the workflow of it. However, the true alpha spegma computer geniuses of you may vouch to utilise NeoVim, and that's absolutely fine if you want to embrace the true power of a keyboard-oriented terminal IDE. Just don't forget, Shift:\WQ! Well, there is quite a large amount of customization that is available to the user both in Notepad++ and, well, especially within NeoVim, which essentially hands you the keys to your own house and leaves it up to you to furnish it. Sure, you can get away with how it is, sleep on the floor, cook on the fire in the backyard, etc. But come on, you'll probably want at least some furniture in there, at least a sofa, maybe even deck out the kitchen, a cooker maybe, so you can cook some food. A bed. With NeoVim being so popular, there is a plethora of different plugins and scripts that you can download from different sources to use as sort of a pre-made template, all free for you to change to your heart's desire. My personal favourite among these prefabricated scripts being the Chad version, which does all of the tinkering for you, Chad style. Notepad++ is a little different, and to be honest, I just roll with the default settings, with the exception being that I put it into dark mode and zoom in a little bit to make the text just a bit more readable. However, if you're feeling up to it, there are plugins available to you to make it just a little bit more homely. And again, it's all to your heart's content. But in all honesty, for you personally, just download both of them and see how you like the workflow of them. Visual Studio is seen as the industry standard in many places, but for your personal computer, it can definitely be more at home, especially if you're running a dual-core outdated ThinkPad from 2009 with a gig of RAM and a 20GB hard drive, respect if you do by the way, and want to do some programming on it without taking up all of your CPU, RAM and storage. What do you think to this quick and easy solution for programming in C++ on Windows? Comment your thoughts in the comment section and tell me, what does your setup look like? Alright, thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you're new around here. Like the video if you did, and comment down below if you prefer a different IDE that I didn't mention. As long as it's not code blocks, because code blocks is terrible. Alright, thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in my next video. Have a very good rest of your day.